Hi everyone.
Hi.
I think it will be no one right now, but when we repost, hopefully somebody will be watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just want to introduce you to this podcast series, the video podcast series, which is about motorcycles and everything to do with motorcycles. Particularly if you're already past your midlife crisis, which I presume all three of us are. Shane got there a long, long time ago.
I've never had a midlife crisis. I'm still waiting.
He's in his late life crisis now. So just want to introduce Shane. Shane is an expert rider. So I'm going to classify this into four categories, right? One is newbies, right? And then intermediate. So I think I've crossed the threshold of being a newbie and into the intermediate stage of riding, right? Which Shane may not agree with, but I'm going to count on Zubin to say that he agrees with it. And then there's the expert level, right? So that would be the expert level which Shane is at, I think. And then there is I guess the professional, right? That would be like the dirt bike riders and like people who do it for a living, like the Formula One, whatever, the MotoGP guys, right? So anyway, Shane leads lots of rides and things like that for BMW and for Honda and stuff. And he was even a marshal on one of the workshops that I went for off-road riding that Vijay Parmar held. And Zubin is an institution in Bombay, at least, if not all of India. He's like, when I joined the motorcycling community, then I was talking about, hey, where should I take my bike to for somebody to give me advice? And there was this hushed silence, and everybody was like, go to Zubin, right? And that, that was so. And then I visited Zubin's workshop, and he's become more of a friend than a professional acquaintance. I don't think he can hear us.
No. I think his connection is not good enough.
Yeah, so I think we've lost Zubin there for a while. So we'll continue without him, and when he rejoins, then we can put him back on. So Shane, tell me, when you were deciding on bikes, how did you decide on what bike to first buy? I know you've been riding bikes throughout your life and all that, but once you crossed 40, which was, I don't know, in the 60s or 70s or whatever it was, then how did you decide which bike to pick?
Well, the first big bike I had was, I'll discount the RD350, Yamaha RD350. I'll discount that. But above that was, my first bike was the ER6N, the Kawasaki ER6N, which was the reason I bought that was, it was many years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago in Malaysia, which is where I was living, because I bought that bike because it was available, it was affordable at that time for me, and it was assembled in Malaysia. So you had lots of people buying it. It had spare parts and all were easily available, etc., etc. And most importantly, it was uh, easily accessible. I could buy it easily. It was around the corner from my house. Uh, and that's it. That was the reason I bought it. And it was a 650. It was a big bike. It was a nice looking bike. And that's it. I just went for it.
The experience of riding a bike is different. People do tend to follow somewhat the rules and things like that. No, if somebody's trying to buy a bike in India, what are the things that he should consider? What kind of riding do you like doing, right? I mean, it boils down to that for me ultimately, because I thought I liked sports bike, but actually it turns out what I want to be biking for is really to be traveling around the country, exploring the smaller roads, looking at beautiful villages and all that. That's how I discovered that's the kind of riding I love to do. But I want to also have some of the excitement of being able to race along the highway or take a few sharp turns on some hillside. So what do you think about that? Is that something you have to sort out, and can you sort it out before buying your first bike, or do you figure it out as you go?
I think you figure it out as you go, because I like doing the same things which I've always liked doing, which is exploring by road, by motorcycle, and going into and not have any limitations, like go down any road, kachar, no road, go anywhere. But I never thought about it, so which is why I just bought bikes that I never thought that, okay, the ER6N can't go here or there. After that, in India, the first big bike was my Ducati Monster 796, which also you can't imagine taking anywhere off road, but which I did. I took it off road in the most crazy places, and it never missed a beat. But I never thought that, oh man, this can't go here, can't go there, and I never thought about it. But maybe you should, because now I have the Triumph Tiger, which can do everything those guys did, those bikes did, plus much more off road. Take it
Yeah.
anywhere, drop it, not have to worry about it. My Monster, I used to clean after every ride. I would come back and I would clean every nook and cranny of it to make it look like new, because that's the kind of Ducati is like that. I mean, it looks beautiful, clean. Whereas the Tiger, I hardly clean. I mean, don't clean maybe once in every second or third ride. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you want to save time, money, effort, you should think about these things rather than buying bikes and then learning that, oh man, this is not the kind of bike I want. Actually, this is the kind of bike I want. Also, you have to remember that when I bought these two bikes, the internet was there, but there was not so much information on it, and it was not easy to get all this information. And when I bought my Ducati 10 years ago, there was hardly anybody with a big bike in India. So there was nobody to ask, what do you do what is the experience of owning a big bike in India?
That's true.
Now, now there's lots of information.
But the thing is, despite information, that's the problem, is that there's lots of information, but you can't figure out what's relevant to you. Nobody tells you about some of the pitfalls. Like, there's beautiful bikes that I go and see at all these showrooms, but they've got like ground clearance of like 135 mm, and the first speed breaker you hit or the big pothole that you hit, you're going to hear that you paid like some 14 lakh or 12 lakh or whatever it is for a bike, and suddenly you're going to hear scraping sounds. It's very scary. Like, I love the Street Triple RS, by the way. I mean, I would have bought that bike, and I think I made a good decision. So, I mean, the thing is that I went about it in the other way, actually, compared to what you did. I mean, I researched it down to bits. And I called you at least 100 times and watched 1 million YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And then I ended up buying the Versys, right? Versys 650, right? Which I think wasn't a bad bike, because it kind of did everything, right?
It's the same bike as essentially the ER6N, the same engine and
same engine.
You bought the 650, right?
I got the 650, and it's the same engine, but it's essentially mounted on a much better suspension kind of setup. And it's got 17-inch wheels on both ends, so it's pretty good for like being on the road. It can take the potholes well because of the suspension. My only problem initially was with, I'd been riding when I was younger, and I was riding bikes that I could kind of flat foot easily on. Like, that was one thing. And the second thing was that they were not as heavy, and especially as top heavy as the Versys. I mean, the Versys is an excellent bike. You learn as you become slightly better at riding. But initially, I toppled it a few times because like I'd just be in a corner, and suddenly a car would come in front of me or whatever it was. Like in India, it happens, and then suddenly I have to stop, and then it would just topple because I couldn't kind of get my balance right or whatever. So, but I think it was great because I learned a lot. It allowed me to explore. So I think I bought the bike in a month or less, or maybe around the time I kind of headed off to Kerala on it, right, with Lilian, and so I mean that was pretty good because then that bike allowed you to do that. So let's look at the categories of bikes. There's sports bikes, right? There's adventure bikes. There's sports touring bikes. There's I don't know, cruisers, dirt bikes, cruisers, right? But dirt bikes, I mean, are typically a lot of
ends. These are the extreme ends. Dirt bikes and cruisers on the other extremes.
Yeah, but dirt bikes are like typically a lot of the dirt bikes in India are not street legal, right? I mean, the KLR, the KLX.
No.
So then you can't really. Where do you think an average Joe should start his journey? Should he pick a sports touring bike first? Because you will end up upgrading. I think it's very common for somebody who takes up riding to get a first bike and then upgrade in 2-3 years.
Yeah. If you're getting into it after like 10 or 15 or 20 years, if you're a middle-aged guy, you haven't ridden in 15 years, and you suddenly buy yourself a BMW 1250 GS, you are going to have problems. So you might as well start with, like I kept telling you, which you didn't do, buy a Duke 350 or a Duke 390.
390, yeah.
Ride it for 6 months. Get used to the traffic, being the lowest form of life on the road.
Apart from cyclists.
Cyclists and pedestrians are the lowest thing, but
right.
So you get used to that. Get used to the acceleration, the brakes, which are much better on modern bike than in any car that we can afford, at least.
Right.
And then you upgrade. Yeah, you upgrade within 6 months. Even some people have upgraded within 3 months, which is fine.
Yeah.
At least
No, that
you start off low, and some people have just sold their bikes, or their partners have sold their bikes, or forced them to sell their bikes because they've had a fall or whatever, and they've never gone back to bikes. Imagine
yeah.
if you're doing 25 lakhs on a BMW or something, and then you had to sell it for, like, I don't know, 15 lakhs, 18 lakhs within three
Hmm.
months. And that doesn't make any sense, yeah. Or it
Yeah.
makes no sense. But of
So you
course, like you keep saying, which I don't agree with, you should buy a bike looking at this resale value and all that shit. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you're buying a bike, you buy a bike which speaks to you, which when you get on it, you feel like the king. You feel like a king, and it feels makes you feel good. Not that it'll sell well, or that it's like everybody in the world has bought one, so it must be good.
I think you're misrepresenting me. What I mean is, what I mean is that you
No, a
want to
lot of
buy a bike. Ownership experience is good. Because one of the things with bikes is you
I have
hear all these
never.
horror stories. You hear all these horror stories, which may not be true, by the way. I'm just saying that when you come into the marketplace for a motorcycle, especially a super bike, as they call it, the super bike category, you hear all these horror tales of these bikes that they haven't been able to figure out what's wrong with them, and they're just lying with the owners for like a month, and nobody's being able to do anything with them. So you want to avoid those kind of situations, and you go for the guys that have so I think, like, I had a friend who told me he bought what's the Honda superbike called, the Blade,
Fireblade.
Fireblade, yeah,
Fireblade.
the
Yeah.
Fireblade. And he said he kind of ran it for some 60,000 kilometers or something like that. And once he blew out his engine, and Honda replaced it for free, right? So when I heard
Yeah.
that story, I was like, wow, that's like that's the kind of commitment I want from. So it talks to the engineering and the ethics of the company, rather than this thing about, like, value and resale value. I'm not talking about resale value. I'm just saying ownership experience should be great. So that is something that's a big concern for people who spend a lot of money. I mean, of course, if they're as rich as you, then they don't have to care. Then they can just buy a bike and
Yeah, I would
go.
just buy a bike, considering I have never looked at the after sales at all ever of any bike. Sometimes I've got burnt with like with the Ducati, but I would never do it any different because the bike was amazing. The experiences I had with it were amazing, just amazing. So, and
Okay.
also the two things I
So
want to
tell me
say
about that.
about.
Actually. That's a really good point. So you would advise people to not worry about the after sale service
No,
and the price, because what you're saying is that this is all about the experience and the feeling. So
yeah,
worry about that first, and then the rest of it, you're saying the technology is reasonably good, and
yeah.
you're going to work it out. It's not going to become a huge problem for you, right?
Yeah. See,
So
the issue that you hear about from people about these bikes, some bikes having a problem, are mostly 90% of the time user related. The user has used it in a way which has abused it or doesn't understand it. Because, for example, I know people who on the Triumph Tiger, which is on the most hardy, the hard is the hardiest bike I have ever owned. When you do anything, it's a very bomb-proof bike. People go through the rear brake pads within 2,000 kilometers, or within one trip, like a 1,000 kilometer trip, they've gone through it. Does that mean that the engineering or of the bike is wrong, is bad? No, of course not, because my bike's rear brake pad lasted 10,000 kilometers. Yeah, people I know have used it in 2,000, used it up in 1,000 kilometers. So it depends on the user also.
so they're probably stepping on the rear brake all the time when they're riding.
Oh,
That's
yeah, there's no doubt about it. And they'll say that no, not see, look at this, I don't do it. But they are, obviously they are. There is no other way.
I have one comment about your advice. So you had a bit of advice saying that, okay, just take a small bike and like a Duke 390 and start on that, which is a single cylinder bike, and then
Yeah.
learn your biking on it, and then come to a heavier bike. I'll tell you what the problem there is. There, I think there are two ways to look at it, because if you get a 390, the experience that you have on the bike may not be as phenomenal as. So while you'll get decent and you'll kind of have a middling level experience, you'll get the benefits of motorcycling and so on and so forth. but you're not going to get that rush, the excitement. So you may not be hooked, and you'll be like, okay, this is not for me, and you kind of move away. Whereas if you get like, so the advantage of buying the Versys 650 was that it was in the right zone of being challenging enough for me to, want to improve my skills, like, and start worrying about, okay, if it's a heavy bike, it still doesn't matter. It's all about balance, how much to trust your, braking, how to work out your braking skills, all that stuff that kind of gets you more confident on a heavy bike. And then the funny thing is that after I rode the Africa Twin and stuff, and then I went back once I rode, got on a Versys, I was like, oh, this is such a light, low bike. I mean, it felt like that. And
but we are talking about, who's this buyer? Is the buyer like a 45-year-old guy who hasn't ridden in 20 years, or is it a 35-year-old who has not ridden in 5 years? They're very different things. The 35-year-old, I would say, yeah, you go for the 650 or whatever. But a guy who has not ridden in 20 or 25 years is 45 years old. I would still suggest go for the 390, because you are looking for the experience of riding a bike, not that how fast it goes, because you will riding a 390 Duke after 20 years. Your last bike was a RX 100, man. So after that, you ride a 390, you'll be like, fuck, the bloody brakes are crazy, power's amazing, it's comfortable enough. That's the experience you want, and you will not kill yourself most probably on it. And so that's why I'm saying, I mean, it depends who you are, what you want. If you if a lot of people who just want to ride it on a Sunday, go for a Sunday bloody chai and say, okay, man, I got the biggest bike or whatever, then you buy the biggest bike, be happy doing that Sunday ride. But then you're not riding across country, and which is where your risk of having an accident comes in. More in the middle of nowhere, if you're riding somewhere, you have an accident, it's a bit of a issue.
So you know what I did, right? I mean, this, that I got the Versys 650, and then soon after I actually got the 390 as well. And I did that not to the Duke 390, and I didn't do that because I wanted to ride a lighter bike or anything, but because I wanted a sportier kind of experience. I mean, it sounds funny now to say that for the Versys, because the Versys is pretty sporty, but I thought I had classified it in my head as an adventure bike, which is kind of big, high, heavy, and all that, and good for like long distances when I'm going to Pune or whatever. But if I wanted to do weekend, just like ride down the highway or something, and kind of, it was great. It was great at cornering. I loved it. So I loved riding it. But can I tell you, the problem with it is for Indian roads, the suspension was so stiff, right? And then for my frame, it was kind of small, so it felt a little overwhelming. The engine was a single cylinder. It wasn't the most sophisticated. So I quickly grew tired of it, and I sold it very quickly, right? I had only done 3,000 kilometers on it when I sold it. And I continued with the Versys, and then I upgraded to the Africa Twin. So for me, the journey's been, so this, like, I'm talking to a consumer like myself. Like, maybe we've ridden when you're younger, your sense of balance and this and that pretty good. I cycle all the time, so I'm used to the, the dangers of traffic conditions in India and all that stuff. I mean, not used to the speed, not used to the technology. In fact, my biggest problem initially was trusting the technology of, the ABS and how good the brakes are. I would never do that. So I was never riding the bike. I was riding it to like 40% of its capacity, because I'd be like, I can't be going this fast because, I won't be able to stop. But actually, the bikes can stop really quickly compared to what we had earlier.
Yes.
So you gradually grow into it. So for that purpose, okay, let's think about that guy who's like 40. Okay, he's 40 plus, and he's now wanting to go back to riding. He has, the money now, the time now. And when we were younger, we didn't have all that money, right, to buy all these bikes. And so, what would you recommend? Which variety of bike would you recommend? A sports tourer? I know it's about their preference, but what do you think is the most suitable bike for India that's fun on weekend rides, short rides? That's comfortable to take on, like if you want to do a ride from here, Bombay to Bangalore or Delhi to Ladakh or whatever it is, and can kind of is relatively hassle free. Which bike category would you say adventure bikes? Is that why they're getting so popular these days?
Yes, because of they can go anywhere. Even the medium adventure bikes like the Versys and the XRX, Triumph XRX instead of the XCX, which is the road focused, it can still do a lot of stuff. It can go off road like you wouldn't believe. So can the Versys actually. So can the Suzuki XT 650 XT, what's it called?
Yeah. That's a great bike actually.
Yeah, it's a great bike. You can take it anywhere. It has tubeless tires. slightly heavy, but so what?
Twin
I mean,
cylinder, fairly decent
T20,
engine,
T20,
tubeless
yeah.
tires. Tubeless is very important in our part of the world.
So yeah, so that would be the, if you want one bike that does it all, you just buy one of these kind of bikes. Yeah.
So again, from what you're saying, you don't seem to have a very strong preference in terms of which brand and what particular bike, right?
No, no,
But
no.
if you have to drill down, so let's see. At a starting level, I wouldn't go for the 1250 GS. It's too much money as a commitment. It's too heavy.
Yeah,
Like, so let's say you look at the XT, the 650, right? You look at the Versys 650.
yeah.
You look at the Tiger XRX, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And you look at the what else is? Are there any other bikes in this category?
Like Ducati Scramblers. Well, not the Scrambler, but the, what's it called? The dual purpose bike, the cross country desert sled. It's
Right.
slightly tall and it's intimidating because of that. But yeah, that also.
So and there was, I mean, I still have a theory that you basically need at least two bikes, right? Uh,
No,
now you may
disagree.
disagree with that theory, but the idea is this, that in India particularly, I'm talking about India, you have two different kinds of riding. One is going to be when you are going to be traveling long distances, you're going to be coming across village roads, you're going to be coming across pothole roads, you're going to be coming across no roads, right?
Yeah.
And then you cross all of those, you have to carry luggage, you have to be relatively comfortable, you have to ride, long distances. On the other hand, you're also going to come across beautiful highways, like beautiful stretches, across some section of the Ghats, or like going from here to Nasik from Bombay, for example. Delhi, obviously, I think even has much better highways and roads.
Yeah.
And so then you want the zippy,
Yeah.
really high revving bikes which can do really well. So you should get one of each. So for like, I would keep something like the Z900, the Kawasaki, and an adventure bike like the Tiger 900 or maybe the
Yeah.
Africa Twin. I personally feel that having two bikes, you actually become a more regular rider, because otherwise, if I'm like on the weekend, if I don't have much time, then I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, okay, am I going to take the Africa Twin, which is like this big heavy bike with a 21-inch front wheel through the lanes of Bandra, and then just come back? I mean, it's it doesn't appeal to me, and then I have to wait for that vacation time, or like plan the weekend and then go somewhere. So you're saying adventure bikes. I think I agree there that ultimately,
Yeah.
but there is a case to be made for the sports touring bikes. Would you agree? Like the Ninja 1000?
No, not really. Not
Why
in
would you?
India. Not in India, because you are just limited to the roads. Yeah. Because like on my Ducati, I keep coming back to it. I would look for roads where I would not have such a bad time on my shoulders, my arms, because of the posture. And if there were potholes and all, it's not enjoyable at all on these kind of bikes. So you're limited in just going on the roads that are okay, and so you're not really exploring. If you're using it just for the weekend ride around here, around your house, then that's fine. If you do want to do a little more than that, little more than 2 hours a day, then, and not be limited which roads to take, then these bikes make no sense to me at all. Not in India.
Yeah, I think we have to look at it from the India.
The people like the Harley guys, if you're a Harley guy and you want to come into this segment, those guys don't want bloody bad roads, or they don't care. They don't want to go off road. For those guys coming into a sport tour like the 1000 SX or whatever it is, the Kawasaki, that's a
Yeah.
great bike. Comfortable, it's lovely, crazy power, sounds amazing.
But the Harley. So let's make one thing very clear to people who are watching this video podcast or whatever it is, that Harley riders are not bikers. We don't count them as part of this community. So that is very, very clear. Let's be absolutely clear about that. You ride Harleys. That's it. You're not bikers, right? So as long as that is clarified. So when they become bikers, then they should come into. But typically, again, they want cruisers where they want to put up their feet and stuff like that, and then lie back and recline and ride.
These bikes are very comfortable. A lot of guys from Harley who jump from Harley come into BMW because of the bloody name and all that shit.
So let's discuss that bike. I mean, it's a legendary bike. It started that whole. In fact, it's so funny that I used to actually work at Discovery Channel when that show came, and we kind of also licensed it in India and played it. It was called Long Way Round, right?
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor, right? And so, this is a bike that is legendary, right? What do you think about getting that as your first bike and then just living with it for the next 5 years?
Well, if you're a good rider, if you are naturally good, and if you're good, very good rider, then yeah, you'll manage easily. But if you're not, if you're just most people are middling to bad riders, yeah. Especially in India, because you don't get any formal training, you're not taught anything. You just get on a bike one day and start riding. So you're not taught like in America or in England. You're not taught how to ride a bike. So for those guys, it's a bad idea. But if you're a really good rider, and when you were riding your RX 100 in those days, and you went all over, you went to Ladakh in the 90s, and you're good, yeah, that means you're a good rider. Yeah? You will have no problems. So that way, those kind of people will be fine who are already good.
Obviously, it's not suggested as a first bike. So,
I know people know about it as a first bike.
So we're actually narrowing down. So we're actually kind of making two suggestions here for people who want to enter riding when in their second coming, or so to speak, or rebirth as motorcycle riders in their 40s, particularly. Is that go for either you do one thing, either you go for a Duke 390 kind of. Again, I want to make a point about the Duke 390. That's also a category of bikes called street naked, which means that the riding position is not as aggressive as a sports bike, so it's relatively comfortable. The ground clearance for India is pretty good, right? So those two criteria, I think one has to look at, because I think I haven't bought something like the CB 1000R or beautiful bikes which are great to ride, very comfortable seating position, everything, because of the ground clearance. It's like so terrible, and then I don't know what the experience is going to be like on the Indian roads, especially over potholes and stuff like that. So with the Duke 390, you get like a little bit of that advantage that you have, just like your CD 100, like the typical Hero Honda. Your ground clearance of the engine and all that is quite good, and your seating position is relatively comfortable. So
I think Adventure, 390 Adventure, it's even better.
So the 390 Adventure, actually, yeah, essentially that would be the perfect bike to actually start riding, right? And you get like a relatively exciting experience. It's got all the technology, it's got all the cornering, ABS, all that kind of stuff. So you would recommend what about things like the Himalayan? What about things like the Himalayan for people who don't have
a lot of my friends laugh at it, but I like that bike a lot. It's really comfortable and it goes anywhere, and it's anybody can ride it. It's really nice, as long as you don't worry about the brand, and it's very reliable also, by the way, now at least. I like it a lot. Very comfortable. It can go off road very far. It'll keep up with anybody like Triumph Tiger anywhere. Maybe even go further, because it's more manageable. You're not so worried about dropping it and picking it up. I'll be able to pick up a Himalayan, whereas a Tiger, I'll pick it up once. After that, it's a pain. So I like that bike a lot, but a lot of my friends make a lot of fun of it. But I like it.
But so what are the negative aspects of owning that bike? I mean, if it's cheap and it's kind of able to handle the experience.
It's a bit. It's like an implement. It's like if you want something like it's an implement. Basically, if you want to go touring, you buy that, just put your luggage on and go. It doesn't speak to your heart really. It's not like, but it will get you there. Without any hassles. Nobody will look at it twice. You'll go through villages. Nobody will give you a second glance, kind of thing, which is a good thing when you're touring alone, especially.
Right.
So that's fine. It's good for that.
Right, and also it's easy to repair anywhere on the
anywhere. Yeah. Yes.
So Enfield is but again, I mean, we are talking about bikes that excite your soul, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then so the 390 Adventure is pretty decent at being able to go anywhere that it wants, right?
Yes. And the middle one I would buy would be the Suzuki XT.
Right.
I forget what it's called.
It's called the V-Storm.
V-Storm 650 XT.
XT, yeah. And we only get the XT version here in India, which is the off-roading focused kind of with the tube with the
Yeah.
sorry
Tubeless.
tubeless, but with spoke wheels.
Yeah.
So that's actually a pretty good option. So that's where you start, and then you graduate hopefully to the Tigers and the
Yeah.
GSs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I think people will get a lot of value from that. So this is a good start to our series of podcasts, and we'll continue educating all the people that are coming into this uh, through your wonderful expertise. We lost Zubin today. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to give his lots of very important inputs with reference to the engineering and maintenance and things of that bikes, because we get a lot of tips from him, and that's obviously.
He would have he must be seeing a lot of different kinds of bike coming in. He would have a lot of insights which we have no clue about. Yeah.
All right, and so we'll keep discussing other subjects. And I think for next time, I've got an interesting subject, which is coming down to actual models. So, and that's because it's a personal interest. We will have a kind of a face off between the Tiger 900 and the Africa Twin 1100.
Virtual face off, because nobody's actually ridden them back.
Yeah, virtual on based on specifications. No, people have ridden them. I mean, we have all these reports but we haven't ridden them ourselves because it's only going to come next month. It was supposed to come in April, but the Tiger 900, the Africa Twin is already here. The Africa Twin is already here, but the Tiger 900 was supposed to come only in April, but now thanks to the COVID situation, it's delayed. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We can always talk about it. That's what we're doing about bikes anyway.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. All right. See you.
Bye.